Welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. Today is Monday, October the 20th, and this is Michael Ryce, your host for today. Jeannie is on her way to the beach at this moment with some friends, and I stayed behind with some friends with family and friends, and I stayed behind to do the radio show. And then once we're complete, I'll be heading over to the beach with Jeannie and holding the space for awesome days. Hope everybody's well and looking forward to what unfolds today. Looking for, and I'm operating from the computer today, so forgive me if pardon me if I'm a little bit slow, because I'm not used to doing all the functions here. But I see that we have both Carrie and Susan. Delighted that you're both here. And what's on your mind? Excuse me, I just realized that I had to hit the admit button for you folks. So my apology for holding you out there. I thought it was automatic. So I'm learning something new today. Welcome. Hi, Carrie. Hi, Susan.
Hi.
Hello, everyone. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hey. So how do you be? What's exciting? What's on your mind for today?
Susan and I have been talking about emotions and what we're feeling, and I have also had, as you know, this journey with my grief,
Right.
and I'd kind of like to talk about that a little bit, if that's okay.
Please, let's go for it. Absolutely, 2000%.
Michael, you sound like a basso profundo. What happened to your
Well,
voice?
I do have a little bit of a throat thing going on today. It has been going on for a couple of days, so another little cleanse stepping up to the plate.
Mm.
And it's okay. It's good. Just a little froggy.
Yeah, it doesn't sound bad. It sounds
No.
okay.
No, just 2 notches down.
It's there, right. Cool.
So I think I'd like to talk about this grief thing a little bit and then move into emotions in general and have Susan kind of weigh in a little bit.
Awesome.
If that's okay.
Please, yes. Would love to have that conversation.
So as we've been talking about collapsing and releasing and healing, I feel like there's an aspect of acknowledgement of feeling the feeling, whether it's grief or some other rage or some other hostility feeling.
Being honest about it, you mean that it's there?
That it's there, yeah.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
really acknowledging it, because there was a time when I was in a lot of denial about some of my feelings. And I think in order to heal them, we need to really feel them.
Yes.
And so uh, when my first husband cheated on me, and we eventually got separated and divorced. But during a 2-year period, he kept going back and forth, and I was in this incredible grief and also rage. And it was going on for a 2-year period, and it was very exhausting.
Yeah.
Going through this constant emotional roller coaster back and forth. And, I think there's a fine line between wallowing and feeling. So after 2 years, a friend of mine said to me, Carrie, he'd gone through the same thing with his wife. He said, Carrie, I think you're wallowing. Well, I took a step back and I took a look and I acknowledged to myself, I am so exhausted for just having these feelings coming up over and over. Nothing's being healed, okay? It's just coming up over and over and over. And he'd been a great friend and, support, and he understood my grief and my rage and all of these things. And at one point, I had this huge aha moment where I realized, from him saying that to me, where I realized, I had this realization that my husband was not doing this to me.
Big piece of puzzle.
And I hadn't even met you yet, okay?
You already had the definition of denial down pat.
So this is back in the 80s, late 80s. And so I realized that all of the actions that he'd been doing had been for himself. He was not doing it to me. And the rage and that grief just completely dissolved. I don't know how it happened. We're friends now. We parented together. I love him still because I was like, I love this man. Otherwise, I wouldn't have married him. And he still is all those things that I love. So why would I hate him? So we're still good friends and all of that. So okay, there's that. Then I had some other experiences of loss in my life after that. When I lost my dad, I lost my job. I felt like with that job, I had lost my identity, all this stuff. And uh, again, I was in a completely despairing place. One night I was sobbing so hard. I couldn't drive. It was pouring with rain. I pulled over to the side of the road, just sobbing. And I had been teaching a Course in Miracles that night. And I was like, what is the matter with me? And I was like, help me, Holy Spirit, please just help me. I was crying out in this despair. And literally within seconds, I was filled with grace and peace. It was unbelievable. That feeling still gives me goosebumps to this day. And so there was a huge release of all of this grief and all of this emotion. Then a few years later, I had this experience of leading. I was the executive director of a not-for-profit land conservation land trust, and we were trying to save an ancient prairie from the bulldozers. Ancient prairie, over 8,000 years old. Only a handful of acres of this ecosystem left in the state of Illinois.
Right.
And these ancient prairies are full of all kinds of life, not just what you see above the soil, but beneath the soil. They have created this symbiotic relationship of earth and all the creatures that live in the earth and the mycorrhiza and the plants and the insects and all the animals that live in and on the earth in this ancient place. Well, I ran a campaign and I had another partner who she ran most of the campaign with the people and although I did some of that, we had people from all over the world sending us money and support. We were
Right.
we were written up in National Geographic, Saving This Prairie. I was in charge of all the lawsuits against the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, Pete Buttigieg. I can't remember how to say his name probably. We had lawsuits against them, against the Federal Aviation Administration, because it was an airport that wanted to bulldoze this prairie. We had lawsuits against the Illinois Department of Transportation, uh, you know, whoever, whatever, because there was an endangered bee on this site. So we had standing with this endangered bee that was found on the site. So I knew in my heart of hearts that we would not win. And it was important for me that we ran an ethical campaign. So I said to everybody, all the people on the streets who were coming out in support, uh, there were demonstrations, there was TV, I was on the radio constantly, I was on the TV, I was talking to news reporters, and this was going on for over a year. Um, uh, and I was very conscious about having an ethical campaign, not doing any mudslinging, having a respectful campaign. And Joanna Macy, she works a lot with eco grief and with ecology and the connection between humans and nature. She had done a workshop on eco grief, and I thought, okay, I'll join this workshop. And she said, okay, we're going to feel the grief and da da. And I was not connected at that point with my grief over the loss of this ancient being, because I see trees and I see the natural world as conscious beings. And she started her workshop and I was like, oh, this is ridiculous. These people are wallowing. Yes, is what I said. And then as I sat and I listened to her talk and to the women and the men talking, all of a sudden, this upwelling of grief poured out of me for the earth, the grief for the people who felt the need to destroy, for all the creatures, for the being of the prairie. And I realized, even though I had healed other aspects of grief, I felt I had healed other aspects of grief, I had not healed this grief. And then you said to me, oh, there's just grief inside you and it manifests in different ways. And I was, yes, of course. And I went back to some past life readings where I had experienced lots of grief in those. And I don't want to call them past lives because I think in terms of time, everything happens at once. And these things are just beyond my understanding. But I felt that this grief and welling up inside me was um, it was so powerful. All right. And so I got asked by a magazine to write about this eco grief because at that point, the bulldozers had come and they were starting to rip up this beautiful Belbo Prairie, it's called, in case anybody's heard of it. And I wrote this article about eco grief, about my grief for this prairie. I gave talks to people. I stood up in front of, maybe hundreds of people talking about this and feeling it deeply and feeling like I had gotten to a place where this grief again, like with my marriage, it was like, I no longer want to wallow in this. And at the same time, I want to acknowledge the sort of beauty of our emotions, because our emotions, whether they're grief or rage or whatever they are, they're like as you say, they're like the tool that helps us to move into healing.
Powerful guides.
Yes, amazing, amazingly powerful. So, I thought, okay, so how does one actually just heal overall grief? Could we, instead of doing a million worksheets on all the different aspects of grief or all the different aspects of rage or all the different people or all the different so the earth, I perceive Mother Earth, Mother Gaia. I am so interconnected. And I feel that if I go up to a tree and I wrap my arms around this tree and I melt into this tree, I feel that the tree knows grief. And is there a way to heal these emotions in a way that doesn't take forever to release? So you're talking about, okay, I'm collapsing this, I'm collapsing that. Can we not do it like once and for all for everything, rather than taking each individual thing? Oh, so and so did this, so it made me feel grief. So then I work on that thing with so and so. And, when you were talking to Susan about, oh, the worksheets, no longer, there comes a point when you no longer have to do a worksheet on somebody else. You're doing them all on you because that's you, right? Everyone is an aspect of you. So if I'm healing me, I become the subject of the worksheet, my grief, which then ripples out and heals. It can heal all grief within everyone on some level. It can start that ripple effect. So that's kind of part of my question. And I know Susan wanted to talk a little bit about her thing, but maybe you want to address this. I don't know. I feel at one point I felt I denied my grief. Then I expressed and acknowledged my grief so I denied my grief about certain things for decades. And then I expressed my grief for a couple years, and then I wallowed in my grief. And then I healed my grief around certain things.
Some arenas,
So,
yeah.
yeah, so I feel like there's this progression in our emotions that we we can do with your work. We can heal this once and for all, um, and release it. So that's kind of where I am with it.
Okay, good layout. So first of all, I'll start off by saying I'll certainly be breathing with you. And Susan, do you have any thoughts, seeing as how you guys have been in conversation about it? Do you have any thoughts to add to that?
No, that was good. We'd gotten on this topic because at one point in a couple of sessions back, Carrie said she was having grief, and Michael, you went right for the
The joy point, yes.
yeah, you said, well, that's your grief. I mean, it's coming out of you. And it felt
I
to
don't
me
think I
like,
quite said that or had that tone of voice, but go ahead.
no, however I took it, I'm not saying I could quote you, but
I'm
I
just
took it
joking
as,
with
hey,
you.
wait a minute, let's give her a little leg room here. Let's just stay with this grief for a minute. I mean, it's not going to be a big deal. Um, And I've had that done with me. So it was a trigger, that's all. And I wanted to run to the rescue of Kerry. And I also share echo grief. And it's my grief, but I'm looking at what's happening to the planet, and I know it's my grief, but I'm just looking, it's a thing that's happening. So, yeah, that was the origin of it. And another thing about Carrie is she's on our support group, and she has a lovely way of going in and putting like a gentle hand on the shoulder of a person in a different Zoom frame and just being there with the person for a moment before things move on. And it doesn't take much time, it's just an acknowledgement. So she's really good at that. And I also noticed with Colin piping, Carrie suggested I look at a video you made being interviewed about your work as related to Colin Piping's work, Michael, and also an article about Colin Piping and his work. And I I didn't spend all that much time on the article, but it does seem as if that is, I mean, I know he doesn't use the goal as the main part or a major part of his wake-up sheet at all. I haven't looked at his wake-up sheet, but he wasn't mentioning goals. He was simply mentioning, well, two things. One, that the person or event that appears to be upsetting you is a tool, is a window or a mirror into, it's a learning tool. It can help you if you take it that way. And in doing that, you may find you've forgiven that person. Now, I may be wrong about this because I didn't spend much time on this article.
Right.
But the other thing he did was he also did what Carrie does so beautifully. And I know, Carrie, you might have learned it from him because I know you've worked with his approach of just being with the person for a little while before doing the work, of stepping away from it and doing your own work on it. So I found the article. I wasn't that interested. I thought, oh, I know about this. And I didn't look at any of Colin's wake-up sheets, for instance. I didn't really want to because I'm already using these fantastic wake-up sheets. So I came right back to doing the work as I've learned to do it through you, Michael. And I sent you those cartoons. I don't know if you could read my handwriting. Tim Hayes said he had trouble with the handwriting. And I don't know if you've seen the cartoons I sent you. It's an email. Did you see them?
I have not seen them as yet, no.
Oh, okay. Well, you may have trouble with my handwriting. They were part of my journals back in 1997. Pre-Michael Ryce, I did get some things, but the forgiveness, it's a funny cartoon. I think you'll get a charge out of it if you can read the writing. If not, I'll tell you at some point what they're cartoons with these little bubbles where people are talking. And
right, got
it was the bubble part that was hard to read.
Okay.
So I've kind of meandered around, but no, I don't want to add anything to what Carrie said. That was good.
Okay.
Over to you.
Cool. Well, seeing as I brought Colin tipping up, I'll just put in that, it's not easy for one steeped all their lives in the Greek idea of pardoning to be able to see past the blinders that puts onto the mind to actually comprehend forgiveness. Colin based his work on my work. He came to one or two of my workshops and loved it, thought he understood it, and created a worksheet. And unfortunately, the worksheet is totally Greek pardoning, and there's no forgiveness in it whatsoever. So, and that's just, the way it is. And, there are benefits to pardoning people. but they're nowhere near the benefits of going into the process of forgiveness. And as far as the grief idea goes, of course, one is going to have to. One of the things that I appreciated that you did, Carrie, was the fact that you recognized your denial of feelings. And I want to point out for everybody that's listening that we're using that word denial differently than the pretense that something isn't there. The act of denial, the act of blame, means that I dissociate from awareness of anything even being there. So when I talk about denial, I'm not talking about the pretense that something isn't there. Gee, I have all this going on inside of it. I just live above it and I pretend it isn't there. But that when I talk about denial, I'm talking about it in a very specific way, very specific definition. When I think or speak as though something outside of me is the cause of what's moving inside of me, then I instruct my mind and I say to my mind, in effect, mind, you are not allowed to show me the truth of what's going on inside of me. I want you to build me a construct, a picture world. Here is the thought. Here is the query that I'm going to give my artificial intelligence, carbon-based memory. Show me that my pain is caused by that out there. They made me mad. They made me sad. They hurt me. Whatever it is. So that's the distinction in denial that I want to bring up. And I really appreciate how spontaneously and how quickly you were able to dissolve, Carrie, the minute that you went for the truth instead of hung out in the pain that you had hung out in so long. And I certainly hear that, and I wonder if you've done any worksheets around what I heard you describing as you spoke about this that whole prairie is the, excuse me while I quiet my phone down here. What I hear is that you are mourning over a sore on Mother Earth. And I wonder if you've dealt with any goals in that regard. Have you done any worksheets?
No, I haven't done, I haven't looked at my goals for that. And that's something that is next on my agenda, is to, I just did this morning, I also did some with a guide, I did some shamanic journeying into the earth, about grief and releasing grief. And that was one of the things that during that journey that I recognized was that there are things that I want to see happen. My goals, really.
Cause of suffering.
Yeah. Or the things should be this way and not this way.
Pardon me, let me correct what I said. It's not the cause of suffering. The type of thinking that exposes the unresolved suffering in myself that I haven't dealt with. I have a particular way I want it to be, and it's not that way. And
so I'm projecting that out. I'm projecting that out onto the earth, onto other people, onto whatever the object is that I'm projecting it out to. Yes. So that's my next piece of work, is looking at what is it that I want. And there's a part of the worksheet that still kind of befuddles me, and I think I understand it on an intellectual level, but I don't get it in my gut on some level. I totally get why we're canceling the goal. Yet at the end, the worksheet says setting a goal with this other person. It's kind of like co-creating something together. Yeah, and it's something that has to be achieved within the next 24 hours or something. And um I that's just to me setting another goal. It's setting another I want. It's setting another how things should be. Maybe I need that explained better. I don't know.
Okay. Good thoughts. So notice, remember our definition of denial. What I think or speak is of something outside of me is the cause of something inside of me. And if you go back and listen, I didn't record the words, so I can't speak them exactly back to you. But what your mind is telling me is that your state of quote unquote befuddled is caused by a thing called a worksheet.
Yeah.
And that's called denial. And I bet you've had that befuddled feeling before a time or two.
Yeah. Damn worksheet. Yeah.
If only everybody in the world would just follow my directions, how a wonderful life would be. And
Yes.
I certainly hear Susan's point and your point that these emotions need to be acknowledged. And until we allow ourselves to become cognizant of what's going on inside of us, we'll never move them. And until we are able to let go of the projection and come into direct relationship with them. One of the big benefits of denial, thinking or speaking as though something outside of me is the cause of what's moving inside of me. What's moving inside of me that is the cause of my pain is still moving inside of me, and I'm still in pain. But the big benefit is my mind creates for me a false picture where I can pretend that the cause of it's out there. But the pain goes on. So I'm in an indirect relationship with my pain, all the while believing it's about them because my mind is literally constructing a visual, actual image of it being their fault. And that's one of the things we want to put an end to with the actual forgiveness process. So one of the things that has to go is denial. And we have to begin to confront directly. We need to be able to come back into direct relationship with the cause of our pain. Indirect relationship with the cause of our pain means our pain will go on and on. What's that? It is a song that never ends. It just goes on and on, my friend. That's how it's going to be until I come into direct relationship, which means it's probably going to become even more intense before I do the repair work of what's behind the pain. So with the worksheet, I cancel a goal, not because I don't want it, not because I don't think it would be wonderful, and not because it truly would be the very best thing for the world. Like, absolutely, if you took everybody in the same mind and they looked at this goal, literally, 7.4 billion people would say, yes, that's the way it should be. The other one or the other 0.4 billion would not. So it's absolutely true. But I'm not canceling it because of that. I'm canceling it because I recognize that if I load that goal in my mind will use that goal as a recruiter to bring information forward through resonance that's in me related to that goal. And if that energy is pain causing, then by loading that goal, I will experience pain. And the only reason I ever cancel a goal is because I realize that when I load it, it's linking into something painful in me. And it's my opportunity to resolve what's painful in me. The minute I finish
Yeah,
this worksheet, I may go back and totally, completely reestablish that goal 100%, and that's perfectly fine. Nothing, no problem with having goals. Go ahead.
so what I also understand a couple of things about canceling goals. One is it's ridiculous to have goals for other people or other things.
Not really.
Well,
That's how we
I kind of,
cooperate as a society. I mean, if
well, I
if we
suppose.
couldn't have goals for each other, if I couldn't have written you this morning, if you hadn't written me last week and said, "Hey, I'd like to have this," you framed the goal for me, and this morning
Yeah,
I framed the goal for you. That's how we cooperate. You know, the world does
yeah.
not live on survival of the fittest. The world lives on the survival of the most cooperative. So having goals for each other, I think, is a pretty important thing.
Well, that's a cooperative goal, but not when we have these other unrealistic goals that aren't cooperative goals, I guess. But the
I'm not sure
biggest
I put it
thing,
in a category. I'm not sure I put it in a category of cooperative or
okay,
uncooperative. What I hear you saying is the category that you're objecting to is the ones that when I load them into my mind, they cause me pain.
yeah, yeah, okay. Yes, I see that. And what
And
I
and
also,
and it may be a perfectly appropriate goal between myself and this person that I think is so horrible because of what they're doing to me. It may be a perfect goal, and I'm not going to know until I cancel it and look at what it's resonating in me that I need to heal, that I bring to the party that doesn't belong at this cooperative party.
and that resonance keeps bringing that stuff to you, to me. It keeps
Yes,
bringing it.
yes,
So if I don't cancel the goal and I don't work on that, on releasing that resonance, the universe is going to keep bringing that to me in different ways. And that's kind of how I perceived my eco grief, was that I had healed a grief around this thing. I had healed a grief around this thing. Yet I hadn't healed the grief within me. And in fact, that is what you said to me on the show, that I had grief within me. And that's why it came out again in projecting onto another form of eco grief. And where I realized, okay, if I'm not healing the grief, that overall grief within, then something else is going to come to me in the future, where I get to feel that grief again because I'm resonating it and I'm still attracting it to me.
right. And I'll keep attracting it to me as long as I hold a thought disorder that causes pain in me that I refuse to come into direct relationship with. And when I do come into direct relationship with it through forgiveness, then I literally dissolve or forgive or remove the energy that's going to draw that experience into my life again if I don't deal with it.
Yes.
So again, I cancel the goal not because I can't have it, not because I don't want it, not because it isn't the most wonderful goal in the whole world. I cancel the goal because when I put it in my mind, that goal acts as a recruiter that brings into activity in me a thought disorder that creates pain in me. And I feel the pain, but I have pictures in my mind that show me it's about someone else. When I cancel the goal, those false pictures collapse. And because they collapse in on their own footprint, if I'm being aware, paying attention, got my pen handy, and I'm writing everything down that I touch into, then when that thought disorder or that end result construct of my mind that shows me that they're the problem in my life, when that collapses, if I breathe in and follow it into its root, I will go to the thought disorder that's the cause of the pain, and I will come into direct relationship with it. And if I maintain my awareness as love, and if I keep my breath moving, that thought disorder will be forgiven, will be removed from my structure, and I'll be done with it.
So what I'm hoping is that I can do a worksheet on me and my grief and not on the projection. Uh,
You'll be
and
short
that,
circuiting it. You'd be short circuiting it. As long as you're projecting it, I mean, the projection is perfect. It's a wonderful tool. There's nothing wrong with the projection. I mean, if you live in it, it means a lot of hell and trauma. But the projection is a wonderful tool because it gives me the opportunity to feel what I'm hiding from myself and how deep my denial is around this issue, that I actually construct a picture in my mind that it's about something outside of me. And that's perfect. So as long as I'm thinking, Harry or Bill or Mary or Hortense is the problem here, then I want to do a workshop on Harry, Bill, or Hortense.
So I'm
and
seeing
each time I cancel the goal that's driving that 9-bit construct in my mind, I get to touch into what underlies it. So that's their gift to me.
So I see that, and I also see that if I just keep canceling a goal for ego grief or for my ex-husband or for this or that, I'm not actually going to heal the grief. I'm just healing the grief around that thing, around that projection, which is why I have to do 70 times 77 worksheets. Is there not a way? Is there not a way to just go directly to the source rather than to the projection?
Well, I've lived in that question myself, and in fact, I had a very, very ancient issue for me come up just a few weeks ago. I don't remember exactly how long. It was just a few weeks ago. I talked about it on the show, and I was in exasperation, like, how much work do I have to do around this? How long is this going to take? And I got back a very direct reply. And the direct reply, which I found instantly hilarious, was, how long have you been away, Michael?
Yes, I hear you, and I also think that there is a place in the field where things can be healed instantly.
Absolutely. I'm with you 100%. And I used to have a recording studio in Nashville, Tennessee, in my early days when I was approaching going to school and quitting the business world. I had a studio in Nashville, and there people want instant. It's a kind of an instant society, and
Yeah,
people
we
are
want
offered.
instant gratification.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the examples for me of that sort of points that up, probably. In fact, Jeannie and I just watched a special on him the other night on Willie Nelson. They've interviewed him. He's 92, and he's talking about his life and such. But a lot of people became aware of Willie Nelson was just this instant, big, huge, overnight success in Nashville, Tennessee. Was a huge star. Willie Nelson used to record at my studio. Willie Nelson lived in his car on the streets of Nashville for 18 years before he became the instant success. So those instant successes usually come after a significant amount of grunt work. Can it happen in an instant? Absolutely. Usually,
Michael?
if I've been away a long time, it takes a little longer.
Susan's got her hand up.
Go for it, Susan.
I love this conversation, and Carrie, I hope you and I can sort of do this on our support group too, because I have the same issues. But Michael, weeks ago, or however, there was a point when you were on the radio show and you admitted to feeling grief, and it was just in there. It was just in there.
Yes.
And maybe that's what you're talking about when you just mentioned something. But as a listener, I was just with you. I didn't feel I had the authority or even the inspiration or urge even to go anywhere else except to just be quiet right then. I figured you're the genius behind these tools, and you'd bring yourself to where you needed to go. But I wanted to ask you, how did you deal with that? And I'm asking because I want to learn how you dealt with it, because I'm still stuck in echo grief. And one thing I've done, this is kind of crazy, but Facebook, I've become the recipient of various nature emergency websites where animals are being experimented on or tortured or being killed for meat and not very humanely and rounding up. So I've pressed a little button and you say, I don't want to see this anymore. And they say, why not? And they don't answer, they don't give the option of saying, I don't want to have to do a wake up sheet every time I open Facebook.
Right.
Which is, and so I press that button and say, don't show me these, but that's not dealing with it. That's just finding ways of not
Yeah, that's
seeing.
avoidance.
It is avoidance, but on
It's
the other
avoidance.
hand, in the old days, we didn't have Facebook where it was thrown in our face moment by moment by moment.
Yeah.
And we do have the challenge of news coming right into our consciousness in a way never happened before. So we're really being challenged to use the tools over and over and over again. But back to you and what happened. I mean, I'm just saying that by way of, this is very big for me, and I guess for
I hear you.
Carrie. But Michael, my first question was, what is that grief about? Well, that's none of my business. You were processing, but is there anything you could tell us how you handled that?
Well, let me address another issue that you brought up first.
Okay.
There's a saying in our culture, totally, completely false. Although if you just look at the outside of it, it sounds absolutely true. Absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Right. We all know that.
Pardon me?
A very familiar saying. Yep.
Yeah. And everybody believed, yeah, well, I mean, but they went away and then they came back and went, oh, I love you. Absence doesn't make the heart go fonder. Absence means that the stimulus isn't there for the thought disorder causing the pain, and the awareness of the energy of that pain decays away to where there's no awareness of it left. But you'll notice when that person came back within 45 seconds or 3 days, the old pain and trauma was there again. Absence doesn't make the heart grow fonder. And the other half of that one, familiarity breeds contempt. No, familiarity doesn't breed contempt. Familiarity, i.e., I open the Facebook page every day and there's another trauma, another resonance for my pain, and I can't tuck it away and I can't hide it from myself. It isn't that familiarity breeds contempt. Familiarity keeps the resonance going of the things that I'm trying to avoid.
Amen.
And I think the situation that you're talking about, and since I started doing this work, I have been in the space of, and I'm going to stay around and carry this work to every mind, heart, and the being on the planet, no matter how long it takes, no matter what it costs, no matter what, it doesn't matter. That's what I'm doing. And a few years back, oh geez, probably 25 years ago now, I went up to Arizona to do a workshop series. And I flew into the airport and rented a car. The other people had been brought in by the people who were sponsoring me had rented a house. And I was staying with them, but they didn't have a car. And they showed a video that someone had shared at their church of a woman who, as a young girl, was playing with her brother, and they were at outdoors at a fire where there was a fire going, an outdoor fireplace type thing, a bonfire, and her brother poured gasoline on the fire and it flared up and just horribly burnt this little 3 or 4 year old girl. The video was her talking as an adult woman in her 40s about the horrific abuse that she had experienced all her life over being so terribly disfigured. I was in the middle of a major healing crisis, probably one of the deepest I've ever had. And I was in bed, symptomatic to the max, with a lung cleanse going on. And the house was running out of food, and I was the only one with a car that had insurance that could drive the car. So I got out of bed and I drove to the grocery store. They went in and I sat in the car. And the thought that came up in me as I was just sitting there breathing by myself in the car, and I think this is the grief that you're talking about, because it's the only time I've had a thought other than I'm here to do this work for however long it takes, it doesn't matter. But the wail that came up from the deepest part of me in that moment was, and it came out of my mouth with me being in the car by myself as a scream of, I want to go back to where human beings treat each other like human beings again. I want out of here. I think that's the situation you're describing.
Yeah, maybe that sort of story. Well,
Yeah. And it was just like the deepest kind of wail that I've ever done, if you think in terms of wailing. And what did I do about it? I continued to do my work. That's all.
hmm.
And the recent thing that I shared that broke for me the need to be done with it yesterday was when I, in another layer of pain around an old issue, and at this moment I'm not even thinking of what the issue was, wasn't that big a deal. It's just one that was like, God, am I ever going to be finished with this one? Here it is again.
Mm.
And I asked the question, it's like, how long is this going to take? Can't we get this done? And the answer was, and to me, it was just hilarious. That's what broke the spell of the pain of that moment. The answer was, well, Michael, how long have you been away? And I went into laughter. It's like, yeah, too damn long. How long have I been doing this crap? Too damn long. I got it. Okay, I'm willing to, I'll go back. I'll put my nose to the grindstone. I'll just keep doing my work. When you realize, how many generations and, eco grief, as people are calling it, using that as an object of attention for grief, is a relatively recent thing. But if you look at, it's not, and I'm not sure historically exactly how long it is, but it's within the last couple of 100 years that people even named their children before they were 3 or 4 years of age, because so many of them died.
Mm.
I mean, that's a couple 100 years ago. You didn't name, if you had a baby, you didn't want to get too attached. You didn't,
Mm.
you held the baby at arm's length. You didn't even name them till it was like, looked pretty sure they were going to survive.
Mm.
So how deep is this loss and grief thing, and how universal is it that needs to be worked out? And is it going to be worked out tomorrow? I don't think it's going to be worked out tomorrow.
Mm.
I'd
One of the
certainly
things,
be willing for it to be for me.
one of the ways I deal with seeing the suffering, particularly of animals, because I know children and there's suffering all over the world in all kinds of forms, is to remember somewhere in the Bible it says, my thoughts are not your thoughts. In other words, God tells me, I've got this. You can't understand this. This is part of being a human being in a separate body. You can't understand this. Just allow that I'm aware, I love. So don't try to take responsibility. You can take action, but so that helps, but that's not the same as
I
doing a
take
wake up sheet. What?
My take on that statement where the creator says, my thoughts are not your thoughts.
Yes.
I think you made up the part about my thoughts are not your thoughts. It's just part of being a human that you're going to get to experience this. And my take is, I don't think that's what the creator was saying. I think what the creator was saying is, I'm inviting you to come up to a new level of thinking because the type of thinking you're engaged in is the cause of your trauma and your pain. And if you don't change
Yeah.
your mind, you're going to hang there.
Mm-hmm. I can feel the transition of
It's
that.
not part of being in a human body. It's not part of being human. It's just what we've done that looks like it's because we're being human, and that we individually and collectively have a massive amount of work to do. And how long has this been going on?
Yeah.
And, as far as the befuddled part, I want to go back. I want to keep that in the conversation to Carrie from what you'd said earlier. Around then, you set another goal and you weren't so sure about that. Like maybe there's something wrong with goals. I want to reaffirm once more. If we don't set goals, we don't function as human beings. It's part of the mechanism. It's part of being a human. It's how you are creator. So I want to, and sometimes people come away with the canceling of goals idea that, oh, well, there's something wrong with goals. No. And when you come to that step in the worksheet, that final step after you cancel the goal that was driving the pain that you're experiencing, the objective there is to frame and set a goal that you will. And a goal means something you're going to do within the next 24 hours. It's not that it has to be accomplished. It's simply that a goal is a commitment to something that I will complete within 24 hours. And so the objective there is to support the mind going into, now having moved through at least a piece of whatever the issue is in the worksheet that's being done, and then framing and setting a goal based in love toward that object of attention to shore up the piece of work that I've just done and assist me in moving forward in completing whatever the underlying issue is in regard to that person.
I feel like I really get that now. It's part of co-creating.
Yes.
And even if that person isn't around, they've passed away or whatever, I feel like we
Can
can
somebody
still
mute
do that.
themselves? Whoever's not muted, if you could mute, please.
That might be Terry. Terry's not muted.
These things work so good. They got an oscillator on them. Yeah. And if you put
Terry,
it on
can you mute?
every room. It'll go straight
Terry?
in the room, straight over there, and it'll cool it like crazy. Yeah.
Okay, I got it.
Okay, great. Yeah, so that makes perfect sense. And from having goals for others to co-creating is it's kind of a miracle.
It is. It's amazing. I mean, for us to have a human life, there is no creature on the planet that can originate anything new, can co-create anything new. All they can do is play out whatever's in them. This gift we've been given is awesome. And sometimes we misuse it, so we end up in pain. And the forgiveness is about just extracting from the pain process we've created and stepping back into the privilege, the awesomeness of having a human life and getting to live as a human.
Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, we have chewed up 1 hour in, I think, a very productive way, for me anyway, at least. And what I'd like to do is make an appointment with each of you to continue this conversation tomorrow, getting more specifically into grief. And so if everybody has the space to join us tomorrow, I think that would be awesome. I think we've created an opening for something powerful to happen. So thank you all for being here. Have a blessed day.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Appreciate each of you. Bye-bye.